Hey, good morning. This is Pastor Harvey Beck. I'm the pastor at Lester Memorial Methodist Church, and I do a Wednesday devotion. And this is Wednesday, August the 14th, 2024. You may see something different over my left shoulder over here. Two balloons that say Happy Birthday, and then one that says You're number one. But anyway, those were hanging outside my door along with a big banner that said Happy Birthday, and had a 6 and a 5 above the door. That all happened in a moment of time 65 years ago when I was born. So my birthday was August the 12th, 1959. So I turned the big 6-5, 65 years old, milestone for many people. And now I have in my wallet, I can't show you the number on it out of privacy's sake, but I have an official Medicare health insurance card. So I am a card-toting member. So I wanted to talk about just that and birthday, and I appreciate everybody that has blessed me and many of the staff and did all that and had that set up, and cakes and cookies and eating out with family and all that goes along with that birthday. Most of us know somewhat about when we were born and where and that kind of thing, and so from our parents as they hand that down to us. So I was born in Huntsville, Alabama, in the old Huntsville Hospital 65 years ago. Shortly after that, we moved to Italy and lived in Izmir, Turkey. Don't remember any of it. I was a baby then, but part of my life dates me. This is the age I am now, 65 years old, and just over this summer, I've had 6 funerals, just had another one, and then just got 2 phone calls within the last week of 2 persons around 60-ish, my age, one who had a heart attack and one who had a stroke and died. So at 2 of those funerals, and again, this is not depressing, I'm still grateful and thankful for my happy birthday, but I used Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter, which is very common at a funeral. And so 2 of these funerals this summer, I went back to that passage, and I just wanted to share it today as a part of our devotion. Very humbling statement, but also an honest statement, but also reminding us that God's with us at each step of the way. And whatever time we may have on this earth, God's with us, and He's put eternity in our hearts. So I just want to share it with you again. And again, most of you are familiar with it, but this is Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter. To everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. There is a time to be born, and there is a time to die. We know that. We know that really from the moment we're children, and it's not long after that we realize death comes into people's homes and families and lives. So there is a time to die. There's a time to plant and a time to pluck what is planted, the harvest time, the cycle of life. We've been through all my 65 years. The Bible said in Genesis that God has said as long as the earth remains, part of the promise that He gave Noah was that there'll always be seed time and harvest. Those cycles of time are going to keep going. A time to plant and a time to harvest that which was planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. Time to mourn, but a time to dance. There is a time to cast away stones, but there is a time to gather stones. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to gain, a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and then a time to sow. Time to keep silent, and then a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. Then the writer of Ecclesiastes goes on to say in verse 11 that God has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, God has put eternity in their hearts, except that no one can find out the work that God does from beginning to end. He goes on to say at the very end, he reminds us of that humbling passage, and this is in verse 20 of Ecclesiastes 3. all go to one place. All are from the dust, and all return to dust. Referring back to Genesis as well, the reality of death. Now, why does this give us hope? Because in all these moments of time, God is with us. God's put eternity in us. This is not all there is on this short time that we're on earth, which right now mine's been 65 years. And just a comment, a statement that I agree with, God has established the patterns of life, and all of our labors cannot change them. Therefore, we should stop straining against these limits and find the real joy and the beauty which exist in the daily round. Some of us who read Seedbed Devotion know that it's been talking the devotion has been talking about, but the reality of Paul's life in the book of Acts, that of all the things he went through, the ebb and flow of the time of his life, but how that God was with him. And it's the same way true with us. We go through all kinds of stuff in our lives, but the beauty is that God is with us. The other thing is that God reminds us, because he put eternity in our hearts, that this is not all there is. And there's a lot going on in all of our lives, but as we look at our world, God's got a plan, but he flows with us and works within this time frame. So God's works will never be fully known. The writer of Ecclesiastes is saying, this time does not mean that since we cannot understand all of life's riddles, but still it makes us realize that God is still with us. The preacher also has the question that there is a God and that his ways, though sometimes may seem unknown to us and even strange, but they're right, and that God ebbs and flows in all of them. So as I shared this with these funerals this past summer, 2 of them specifically, but 6 funerals, the truth is we keep having these things called birthdays, excuse me, but eventually, because of Jesus Christ, God's put eternity in our hearts, and we have hope. But don't miss God in the ebb and flow of the cycles of life and in that time frame that God gives us. He's there, and he loves us, and he loves you, and he's put eternity in your hearts, but it is found through Jesus Christ. So happy birthday. Anybody out there that's got a birthday today on August the 14th, there's a time to be born, and there's a time to die. Most important thing is get that eternity that God has put inside your heart and hang on to it, because it is forever. Love you. Have a golden day.